All right. Hey, Bill Crawford here for the very first, finally, episode of my Miller Green Music Podcast. Here's the logo and the graphics by my man Butch Ramsey. Thank you, big time, Butch. And you can find out more about this podcast project at crawfordpodcast.com. Crawfordpodcast.com. I'll throw that up on the screen here later. And you'll see my two music podcast, or my podcast, music podcast, and my sports podcast, Casual Coaches podcast. So I've done 3 of those. They're out there on the website and on YouTube and on Spotify. But I'm very excited to get this new series started with my music podcast. I'm calling it the Valley Troubadours. And it's fitting that my very first guest is my favorite local regional artist, the very talented Bradley Jenkins Gibson. So we're gonna.
Hey, Bill.
Hello, how you doing, Jinxie? Thanks for coming out.
Yes, sir. My pleasure. Thank you for having me
Absolutely.
on the #1 episode.
Of course, I would
I'm
have
honored.
nobody but #1 on the #1 episode. So, again, this podcast series, both of them, is just for kicks, for fun, and something cool for everybody to listen to. I'm going to try to have everybody, all the local and regional maybe musicians from the area, tri-state area, I guess you'd call it, on here that you know and love and like to go see, and you hear and you see on Facebook and all that sort of thing. But maybe you want to know a little bit more about them and some background history, kind of like the old VH1 Behind the Music shows that used to be on when they actually did cool stuff on VH1 and MTV. But so anyway, we're going to start this one out, episode 1, talking to Brad, and talk about, the usual stuff. We'll start out with kind of the early years. I know Brad a little bit, but I'm excited to learn a little bit more about Brad Gibson and what makes him tick and how he got started loving music and that sort of thing. So Brad, just kind of take it and tell us kind of, you were born in a small town in 19 whatever. Now tell us a little bit about what why are you so into music like you are today? Tell us about what happened back in the day, maybe when you were a kid or whatever.
I don't know. I think I might have been able to hear it, from inside, maybe.
Okay.
But, I've always been, a fan of music and just, like, drawn to it. And in every way, I remember, when I was probably about the height of a bass drum, a kick drum, my cousin Roger, played drums, and he had this huge kit, and it sat in the master bedroom of his parents' trailer. It took up the whole bedroom, and Molly Hatchet posters were on the walls, and they were like so scary.
Sure.
Molly Hatchet doesn't really sound like death metal, but the posters were scary, when you're like 3 years old or whatever. But he was an awesome drummer, and I remember just hearing that beat, and I was just like, it was like ingrained, And my dad played guitar, and
That's cool.
my grandma and my dad's mom played guitar. I've seen pictures, but I didn't have the chance to meet her. But so, like, music's always just been there. So, records going, and Frampton Comes Alive, and Beatles.
My first album,
and, the Chipmunks Go to Hollywood or whatever, like all kinds of just crazy, vinyl, and just always music. Queen, I remember We Will Rock You, when I was probably, it was brand new.
Sure.
But I was just so young that it's almost like a dream. But, music's always just been there.
Good. That's good to hear. And that family connection makes sense. That really does. Explains a lot. So do you remember when you were younger, maybe anything that went on in the local music scene, pioneers or whatever, or just other people, musicians in the area that kind of influenced you, and you're like, hey, that's cool, I could do that, and I'd like to do that kind of thing?
Oh, yeah. Well, as far as like this scene, this local area is kind of when I was, 19, 18 years old. Have you ever heard Dave Morgan, Fred Ludovic, and Buddy Snyder, and I don't know who those guys are, but eventually I got old enough to get into the clubs where those cats were playing at, and it's like, oh my goodness, like,
right.
And so I went from starting with an acoustic guitar that my dad gave me. It was like a nylon string Goya, like made by Martin. It looks like Willie Nelson's guitar, but
Okay.
no, it was that beat up.
No hole in it.
Yeah,
Extra
and
hole.
I still have that guitar.
Nice. That's great.
And if you can learn to play on a big nylon string like that, you know, you can. When you go to an electric guitar, it feels like a rubber band. But so you know, I had that, and just kind of was like one day, you know, I was playing little Casio keyboards when they came out. I had a drum set when I was probably 3 or 4.
That's cool.
And you know, then you get the Casio keyboard, and then I was breakdancing, and then I kind of wanted to play saxophone. So
There you go.
my mom, you know, we didn't have a lot, but we had everything we needed, and
Sure.
she went, you know, and got me a saxophone, and
All right.
I kind of picked up on it pretty quick, and then she got me a tutor, so I was like taking music lessons, and I used to be able to read music in time signatures,
Wow.
and I couldn't even tell you how I did it now. Like,
Is that
I
right?
kind of like can see it, but it, back then it made sense, but it's so far gone
Removed,
now, yeah, that it's like, oh my goodness.
Could you do anything on a sax if I handed you one right now?
I just wanted to play like Man Eater, and like, you know, in the 80s, there was a lot of sax.
Got a surprise here. Bring that sax out right now. Sorry.
Yeah, we'll call the geese in for sure.
I'll be darned. Well, that all kind of makes sense. Those are cool. This is the kind of thing I was talking about. That's cool family connections, and definitely in your blood for sure, in your brain too. But so, what about you know, actually national acts like on the radio or whatever? What kind of things were you into, and you were molding your guitar playing skills and all that sort of thing? What did you?
Yeah, you know, like when I was a little kid, it was like Hee Haw.
Oh man,
Maybe
I love
like Friday nights
Hee
and
Haw, laughing and Hee Haw.
Duke Boys, you know, would come on like right after Hee Haw or right before Hee Haw. I think after, I don't know. But so like I was hearing all that banjo and the guitar and
Roy Clark and
oh my God, yeah, Roy Clark's a genius. There's nobody that's better. But yeah, and then you know, like I got that acoustic guitar, and my cousin gave me a Neil Young Harvest.
makes sense.
It wasn't Harvest, it was Live Rust.
Okay.
So one side of the cassette was all electric, the other side was all acoustic, and it was just like a whole another world of, you know, one side or the other. And you had My Hey Hey, Hey Hey My My. So, but those acoustic songs, that's all I had was that little acoustic. So I kind of started trying to learn those songs by ear, and you know, just finally started to work my way around the chords. My dad showed me House of Rising Sun. That's like every chord you need.
Sure.
And you know, like the next day I was like, okay, I think I got the patterns down. It's just, you know, all picking hand. But so like I like that acoustic sound, and then a neighbor of mine, Brian Beachak, had a, you know, I think it was the Kramer, looked at the Eddie Van Halen model, and he had a little crate amp, and he played Crazy Train, and I was like, oh my goodness, I need that, you know. So again, my mom's there and got me my first electric guitar, and got an amp, and just started hacking away at it. And I listened to a lot of like Sabbath and Slayer, you know. I was a skateboarder, you know. I listened to a lot of that punk rock stuff, so trying to learn how to play with that gnarly electric, and kind of went from there into like into Hendrix, and started, you know, like classic rock. I started to like come around on that and that blues style that's always there. Stevie Ray Vaughan, man, when I heard him, I was like, oh my lord. So I like went on that kick and learning all the Stevie Ray riffs I could, and how to bend, and you know, just that whole style, that whole delivery. It was, you know, one of a kind.
Sure.
And you know, from there it was just like, now I could do a little bit of this and a little of that. So, and then you know, eventually one day you're hearing about guys' names, and you're like, wow, now you're old enough to like see them and get out to the bar, you know, like get into the bar. Maybe a couple times before I was able to get in and like, sneak in or whatever. But you just sit there and you listen to these guys, and Buddy Schneider, and he was like in Star 69, and just an amazing band, and they did YYZ. I was blown away.
Of course.
And I was like, man, I got to keep hacking at it. So that's what you do. You just keep practicing, and eventually you hopefully start to get better.
Yeah.
But
you did, by the way.
I've been fortunate to like get to a place where I've jammed with
Yeah.
every single one of those
Right.
guys. I've shared the stage or jam nights, and so now I'm like in that little circle of this local area has just got a great music scene.
Oh, it really
You're
does.
you're one of the guys that does a lot of good promotion for that. Just it's a real nice scene.
Yeah, it is.
It kind of flies under the radar, but there's so many really good musicians.
It's true. It's been that way for a long time too. It's a great place to be for if you're a music fan. And by the way, Buddy, Dave, you guys are going to be on here too, so we'll get you all on this. Now, fast forward a little bit. That's all. Again, we know each other and we talk, but I don't know any of this stuff really. I'm hearing this for the first time, but a lot of this is really making sense as far as the musician you are today. So now let's go fast forward a little bit to the name on that classic tee there, Inbred Jed, which I was involved with all the No Nuke stuff with Bruce Smith back in the day and the video and that stuff, which I got to dig all that stuff out and get it up to date on the internet. But the Inbred Jed before you joined the band. But tell us a little about the Inbred Jed days and those guys and how fun that was and that kind of thing.
Yeah, those guys. I went to a party, random, out in, I think it was soon to become relatives with this person's party, that married into my family. But Inbred Jed was playing in this garage, and I had never heard him, and I was like, oh my lord, like this is where these guys come from. Like they were just amazing. And Metallica and like just I can't even Alice in Chains. Like back then the grunge era was like full effect, so they were just playing songs that had just hit the radio, that month and just covering them, and people were losing their minds.
Early 90s.
Yeah, but they were still playing some really good old hard rock music, and it wasn't long after that. I was up at the Mountie, and Shorty's was right across the street, and a couple friends of mine, Marla and Dawn, came into the Mountie, and they're like, hey, Inbred Jed's, they're looking for a guitar player. Their guitar player quit. I'm like, what? And they're like, well, we told him you could play. You want to go meet him? I'm like, absolutely. So went across the street, met Dave Severs, Gary Deach, Tommy Matthews, and
Shout out to Tommy.
Yeah, my boy Tommy. Yeah, so they're like, oh, all right, well, meet at Dave's house tomorrow. Here's 3 or 4 songs, and I went home and learned them. And we got together at Dave's house the next morning, and we banged out a few songs. They're like, okay, well, we found a guy.
Nice.
And I'm like, all right, I need a bigger amp. These guys are loud.
Yeah.
I had this little crate amp, and I'm like, I needed a bigger amp, and now I'm gonna need more equipment. And so that's kind of where it went. And then we're covering songs and just packing people in, crazy packed. I mean, just like you couldn't even breathe in these rooms, and it was just like a whirlwind,
Yeah.
But yeah, my shirt's from 1996, our summer tour. So.
It's awesome. On the back, it says all the tour dates. It's just
might be older than a lot of listeners.
It says all the tour dates: East Liverpool, Chester, East Liverpool, Chester, East Liverpool, Chester. It's awesome. Great shirt, and that's the original.
That was Dave's idea, and
that's nice.
It still works.
All right, so we're trying to keep this a little bit compact because we want to part of this Miller Green Music Podcast in honor of Mark Miller and Earl Green. By the way, you can find out more about that on CrawfordPodcast.com. Also, by the way, little shameless plug. Is these T-shirts, which are super cool for both websites, or both podcasts, I'm sorry, but Butch Ramsey did this logo for me, Miller Green Music Podcast. It's got Arl and Mark on there. They're $10. They're only $10, and I'll even ship them to you for free. So if you're listening to this from anywhere, I'll send you that T-shirt for $10. You can get on there on CrawfordPodcast.com and get that. Help me spread the word a little bit. Again, not a money-making thing. This is just for fun to help the musicians around the area and the people that are fans, and just kind of a cool thing to do. That's all. So
you can't even get a T-shirt for $10.
Yeah,
the logo's super sweet.
Yeah, and these are good ones. And Campbell does my stuff. Campbell Signs and Apparel, and shout out to them. And this is good stuff. This isn't a Roger Sale T-shirt. This is
my T-shirt's 28 years older, so I don't know what's going on.
All right, so let's talk about something that I think's really cool. That's been on and off. Maybe it's a way to describe it, but so we can keep things rolling. Tell me about DDR, Dirty Dishwater Revival.
Oh yeah. So there's a couple dudes that I've seen, you know, locally, and they kind of have their own band going, and they still do. You know, they are like little, kind of like a chameleon. They can jam with anybody, anywhere, you know, and do anything. But my
Sounds
friend
like you.
Alex and Ian and their man Izzy, I saw them, and you know, just playing around locally and doing that string band bluegrass kind of stuff. And now I'm like kind of getting obsessed with bluegrass. Obviously, I'm a huge Billy Strings fan. I've been to way too many shows all over the country, but
We'll get to that in a minute.
yeah, those guys. I was like, "Dude, this is awesome." But you know, somehow or another, we ended up, you know, becoming friends, and we start to jam. And hey, man, this is cool. So yeah, we just started. I think we played, our first gig was a Battle of the Bands at Jurgles, and we had only played for like an hour before that.
No way.
And we're in there with all these like hard rock, metal, you know, like well-formed bands, and I'm like, well, you know, it's a Battle of the Bands, and it's for charity, so you know, what do we got to lose? And it went great. I think we got third.
Wow, nice.
Out of 4 bands.
Not bad.
No, I think there was maybe 8, but yeah. So like we keep hacking away at that, and it's fun. We play this old-timey kind of bluegrass music, and hoping to keep that going. And we got a new guy that sits in with us a lot. His name's Cyrus. He just turned 20, I think, today.
No way, really?
Maybe.
Jeez.
Yesterday, if not.
Cyrus, good for
Yeah,
him.
happy birthday, Cyrus.
There you go.
20 years old, and this kid can play some bluegrass, and it's just awesome to see, you know, the younger generation,
Of course.
playing this old music that's been around for 100 years. You know, a lot of it.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen, I think you can find a couple things maybe on YouTube or Facebook or something, maybe your page. I've seen some, not live, but I've seen some Dirty Dishwater Revival stuff, and you got to check it out. I was so excited when you got together with those guys. I was like, this is perfect for you, and I'm looking forward to you guys being able to do some more stuff and get out and play.
It's fun.
Really cool.
It's a blast. It really is. It just keeps me going, and you know, I do my thing solo acoustic most of the time now, so it's a nice break to get to be able to hang there and let somebody else solo, and I can sit back in the pocket and just play some rhythm. You know, that's I never intended to be a singer. I never intended to be like a lead guitar player. I just wanted to play guitar. You know.
Yeah. Yep, just have fun and entertain yourself and do whatever comes natural. Gotcha. Well, if you're lucky enough to see Brad in the Dirty Dishwater Revival coming up sometime, take advantage of that, because it's a really cool project. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about just keeping things rolling here, and you're the kind of guy like I am that luckily learns about music and different musicians, and whether it's I'm lucky enough to find some really good, score some really good new musicians back in the day, from whether it's Pete Arn, my man Pete, or Matt Casheller, of course, the band Whisper. Find out about new music, and you're like, all of a sudden you're like hooked. So I want to talk a little bit about Billy Strings. Now that he's burst onto the scene, I'm sure you were a fan before he burst on the scene, but so yeah, I think you said you've maybe been to 16 shows all over the country or some crazy thing like that. But I know that he's had to inspire you too, as far as just the crazy inhuman skill that he has or whatever. And if you look back and on any old videos, kind of, you know, definitely a natural sort of thing for him. But just tell us real quick a little bit about what's the big deal about Billy Strings and why you gravitate toward him so much, and then we'll have you do a little bit of a little show here for us. Go ahead.
Well, I saw him the first time in McKees Rocks, in a parking lot, stage set up.
Really?
Like right where the Roxy Theater is now.
Yeah.
They were set up in the parking lot. It was kind of right behind that. And it was the day after Outlaw Fest. I went to see Willie, and that's a whole nother story. But the day after that, it was miserable, cold, windy, rainy. I mean, just soaker. You know, like it was just a nasty day. And
like Woodstock.
yeah, it was. But it was a free festival, and they had all these really cool bands. And Rocky Mountain was playing there, and I can't remember the entire lineup, but I really want to see Billy, because I saw a couple videos on YouTube, and I'm like, my goodness, this kid just, he's got it. And I was just, you couldn't even I couldn't even tell you what the rain and how cold it was. Like once the music started, I was just like, oh my Lord. I kind of got lost in it. And I think kind of like in my mind, when I discovered Stevie Ray Vaughan, he's just like blowing it up with this blues, this fiery Hendrixy kind of mix of, but able to make songs that are, you know, hitting the airwaves, and just such talent. And then he you know, died, you know, so fast. And like August 27th, 1990, it was like I was supposed to go see him that summer, you know.
Same here.
He was touring with Joe Cocker, and then I didn't make it. I'm like, well, maybe I'll make it next year. You know, I was just a kid, and so, but like a lot of the things Billy does, he takes all these different styles and blends them seamlessly and effortlessly, and just has this way of, you know, conveying, and the whole scene around it just kind of is part of that, you know, like the music, all the good vibes and everything. So it's kind of like a beautiful scene of people.
Sure.
They go to his shows, you know.
And he's just a good dude. I mean, you can tell he's.
Yeah, I met him a few times. Very humble, very nice dude, and yeah, we picked out like tie-dyes together the one time, and you know, met him in Arizona real quick. I tried to take a selfie. It was the worst selfie ever, and I was like, man, I blew that.
Oh, boy.
But yeah, he's super humble and just so super talented. But yeah, it's fun watching him, you know, just in those last 3 or 4 years, how far to go to like Red Rocks and sell out, you know, multiple nights.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's fun, and like, and he's just he's on his way up, you know. He's playing with all the legends.
Oh yeah,
he's played with them all already.
Yep. It's amazing. If you don't know, assuming you know who Billy Strings is, but if you don't, Google it now. Not now, but after this podcast. But go check it out, and you'll go down a rabbit hole, and you'll be hooked too. So
yeah.
But if you do know, then you know what we're talking about. So, but we're going to talk a little bit more. I want to ask Brad about kind of what's what's coming up for the future. I mean, what are your, not that you have to do anything else in the future. You're just fantastic. We love you and want to keep seeing you play. But do you have any aspirations, or you have any plans, or do you do anything with originals, or do you have any plans to like write some songs? Do you have songs originals? Or what are you going to do? What's in the future? What's your
I
plan?
have riffs and you know, little snippets of riffs or hooks or songs that aren't really whole songs, like. And I have this little recorder that sometimes I put them on there. And I have some of them that are, you know, they're almost 20 years old, just random ideas. And I listened back to them just like last month, and I was like, man, some of these they still aren't, you know, they aren't too bad. Like you could.
Well, that's a good thing if it stands the test of time and it still sounds.
Yeah.
You get that stuff together for us.
It's like, I don't know, it was just, you know, a random idea, hit record, and you never know when you're going to need it. But I'm terrible at writing lyrics because, you know, I can't look at them the next day the same way that I was looking at them kind of when I wrote them. And I'm like, what am I even trying to do here? So it's just always like,
I know.
and that's the worst thing to do. Yeah, any songwriter, you know, they don't throw anything away. You might need a line from here or a line from that or just a word. But so, you know, eventually I would like to try to just throw at least one decent song together, you know, maybe start with one and then maybe two.
I think, and then more. Yeah,
And
I
then
think we all want you to do that. I think that project would come out very nicely. So that's your homework assignment, by the way. Okay.
You got it.
All right. Well, you want to add anything before we because we're going to have another performance by Brad. That's going to be the cool part of this Miller Green Music Podcast. Is for those of you who are going to stay tuned and watch future episodes and be guests on this podcast, be prepared to play at least one song, and that's going to be what's cool about this part of the deal. So Brad's going to play a song here to wrap things up. But do you have anything else to add that maybe I didn't cover, or anything at all you'd like to say?
Well, I believe the DDR will be joining me next Friday at the Hoopy Mountain Music Festival, and maybe we'll put a link on here somewhere.
Absolutely will.
There's camping, and it's down on Kings Creek Road if you don't know where Get-Togethers is, and close to Weirton there. It's going to be a nice 3-day, pretty much 2 nights of music, Friday and Saturday night, and really good lineup of local acts, all kinds of different acts. So a little something for everybody, but nice little scene down there on the creek. So
We'll definitely spread the word on that. That's my
Yeah.
birthday next Friday, July 22nd. So
Sounds like a plan.
make sure you check that out and watch for Brad. He's one of the hardest working men in show business, so you'll see him out playing around at some of the usual venues. And so find him on Facebook, follow him on Facebook, that sort of thing. And I really, we're going to go ahead and finish up with a couple actual performances and a little surprise at the end there too. So Brad, thanks so much, my man, for agreeing to be first guest on episode number 1 of the Miller
pleasure,
Green
Bill.
Music Podcast. There we go. Get your shirt on CrawfordPodcast.com. If you have any interest in sponsoring these too, by the way, I said it wasn't a moneymaker, but we did have one sponsor on one of our Casual Coaches podcasts, Nicholas Galore Thrasher. Thank you for doing that for your auto detailing. And all it does is really is cover any kind of expenses we have for equipment, or maybe we can get better equipment, that sort of thing. So if you're interested, let me know. But very excited about this project. This is, like I said, we're just making it up as we go along. It's a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun with the sports ones, and this is number 1. I've been waiting so long to get this done. I'm so glad on a Friday night, of all things, Bradley Jenkins Gibson is giving me some time here. And thanks to the folks at Thomas Run State Park and Sam and everybody for hanging out in the pavilion number 1 down here. And it's a beautiful, beautiful Friday night, July 15th, 2022. So
It is
yep.
beautiful.
Thanks, everybody. And hang around. We're not done yet. We're going to have some music, and then stay tuned. Make sure you go to YouTube, actually, too, and find my YouTube channel for these podcasts and my music channel as well. I need more subscribers, so do your best to help me out there. And you can find these things on my Facebook page, on YouTube, even on Spotify, and it's coming soon to get on some other stuff too. So I'll stop rambling and we'll finish up, and thanks again, my man.
Right on, brother.
Take care, everybody. God made cold for the men who sold their lives to West Bend Lear. You keep on digging till you get down there where it's darker than your darkest fear. That woman in the kitchen, she keeps on cooking, but she ain't had meat in years. Just live off bread and live off hope and a pool of me and tears. Let me tell you something about the gospel and make sure that you mark it down. When God spoke out, let there be light, he put the first of us in the ground. We'll keep on digging till the coming of the Lord and Gabriel's trumpet sound. 'Cause if you ain't lining for the company, boy, there ain't much in this town. We could have made something of ourselves out there. We listened to the folks that knew that cold. Gonna bury you. Darker than the dungeon, and it's deeper than a well. So sometimes I imagine that I'm getting pretty close to hell. And in my darkest hours, I cry out to the Lord. He says, keep on mining for the company, boy, 'cause that's why you were born. We could have made something of ourselves out there if we listened to the folks that knew that cold, we're gonna bury you. Mabel and Martha, Brad Gibson.